Welcome back to the Chappie and Bengals podcast. We're bringing you above average sports talk with 100% effort and only 60% of the accuracy. I kind of like the way that rolls off the tongue, so I'm going to keep running with that. I'm here as always with my co-host Chappie. We're going to be running a bit of a hybrid this week, considering we're a bit behind on our reaction to the Week 17 slate of games. And then we got the Week 18, last week of the NFL season preview coming up here. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, some storylines, things like that, matchups. But as always, Chappie, how was your New Year's? Happy New Year's to
Happy
you guys
New
out
Year.
there as well.
Happy New Year. No, it was good. A little
Awesome.
low key, just hung out at the house, had a couple drinks, just chilled. How about you?
Yeah, same thing. No football on this year.
Yeah.
That was sad, but tuned on kind of one of those, those like New Year's countdowns on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, this is fucking lame, man.
It's
Like,
just the worst. man. It's
32
not the
years
same.
old, and I'm just going through this stuff now, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, it's just another day. Like,
Yeah.
it's wild. I look at it, and I'm
It
like...
is just another day. It's crazy. Yeah.
You look at the people in the crowd and stuff. I think it was like Times Square that you're watching.
Yeah.
And I think the other people in the room that I was with, too, were just like, who the fuck would go stand out there just
Yeah.
for a countdown?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
who
wild.
does that?
Did you see the thing where it was like the gate opening and the fucking people are booking for it? And I was
No,
like,
I was like,
what are they doing? Like they're trying to get to like the
man.
front of the line of like in Times Square, and I was like, this is just fucking crazy to me. I was like, I would never ever in my life do that to see a fucking ball drop. Like I get
Yeah,
there's performances and shit, and
don't
like
understand it.
but I honestly the performances suck. Like they're not even anything entertaining.
Yeah.
Like I honestly
Performances
don't
as
even
a
know half of
whole
them.
in the year 2025 now, I just downhill for me.
Yeah,
you know?
fuck the
Not
Eras
as
tour.
authentic
Taylor
anymore.
just wasn't it.
It's wild. I don't know if it's because we're getting older, but that shit just like it's
Yeah,
like
no, it's true.
It's so useless to me now. But I mean, New Year's is good. New year, we're
Corey's a
all
fun
ready
guy.
to start anew. I'm a fun guy, big fun guy out here.
Yeah, easy.
But
Corey.
yeah, can't complain, man. Can't complain. Everything is good. Looking forward to the new year. Looking forward to the last week of football here. We got
Yep.
playoffs coming around the corner. It's exciting times. So
Yep.
I think before we even get into our Week 7 recap here, I do have, and I don't know if you took a look at it, I do have our picks from last week.
Okay.
Do you know what you went? Did you take a look
I
at it?
know that
Did you
the
take a look at
dogs that I went for did not come through for me. I know that much. So I know the game, and they weren't bad picks because they were
Yeah.
there until the very end of those games. But yeah, I know
So
it did
what-
go through.
What do we have, a full slate? We have what? I guess because we missed the holiday ones. How many games we got here? In the outcome, you got 5 games wrong.
think
I
they're
actually
all
ended
dogs.
up only getting 1 wrong.
Oh,
So,
look at you.
and that game was the Colts game, which I don't think any of us had the Giants winning that game.
Fair.
But
I knew we went on both of the same on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out the Giants coming through for me. Big win, much needed.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you
it.
needed it. That's true.
Big win.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. But to count it down, we ended up getting the ones that you ended up getting wrong there were the Broncos-Bengals. Bengals came out on top. That was a wild game. Can't wait to talk about that.
That was close. Yeah.
One of the takes that I did have wrong, though, was the Chargers, where I said it was going to be 6-0 game. Was not a 6-0 game. Chargers laid like 40 points on the Patriots
Yeah, they smoked them.
in the Lad McConkey game of the year here, because I don't know what the fuck the Patriots were doing. But now they have the number 1 overall pick in the draft, so hats off to them. They can do what they want now. But the other games included the Colts. We got that wrong. It was pretty straightforward. Aside from like those tight ones, you took Titans. I took Jaguars. And then it was the Falcons-Commanders game at the end. You had
I
the
took
Falcons, I had
Falcons,
the
yeah.
Commanders. That game came down to the wire.
They were all down to the wire.
I
Yeah.
know. And then the 49ers-Lions game, which I actually thought the 49ers were going to take that game because of
The way they were
the
up, yeah.
implications and plus
Yep.
the fact that like the Lions didn't even technically need to win the game because next week's game that was
The deciding
the
factor
calling
regardless.
card, and yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I thought they were going to rest people. Turns out they won, and I mean San Fran was still dicing them up, but that was hilarious.
Yep.
But the one thing I do want to point out, you did say the Jets were going to cover the spread.
Oh, God.
I was reviewing it there, and you were like, I think this is going to be a closer game than people think, and I'm going to take the Jets to cover the spread. Safe to say they did not cover the spread. Not even remotely close to covering the spread.
Aaron Rodgers is going to his quiet place, okay? It's fine. He's gonna
That's
have
okay.
Yeah.
That's good because he's saving the performance for this week when the Bengals need him the most. So it's all right.
That's crazy.
It's all right, man. Just go out hot with a win against the Miami Dolphins this week, and everything will be fine. But we're going to touch on kind of some of the main performances there that stood out. It was a pretty straightforward slate of games, and the biggest ones obviously being the Broncos-Bengals game there. And then later on in the evenings, you had the Packers-Vikings, the Falcons-Commanders, Lions-49ers, the ones with the biggest implications. But let's start with that Saturday game because I can't wait to talk about my Bengals, Mr. Joe Burrow, and all the implications that are to come this weekend. And I wanted to get, your quick thoughts on that performance that was Mr. Joe Burrow winning that game, last play of the game in overtime. And what a fucking roller coaster of emotions that was for me.
Yeah.
Wild game.
The whole time I said to myself, they're going to lose this. The whole time I was like, they're playing, they're keeping themselves in this game. And then the field goal, and I was like, oh my God, this is just going wild in every which way. And then obviously Joey B showing up, T. Higgins, massive. That was, I think, their statement game for the next year and what that could be and what that may turn out to be. But oh my God, the whole way through, like, man, I know we talk about this and obviously like the whole MVP narrative, but there is no better person in the pocket right now in the NFL than Joe Burrow. I will say that hands down. No, I don't care about the whole like conversation about the MVP altogether. There is no better pocket passer in the NFL. And it's wild because he's had to turn into this because of the O-line shit that he's dealt with in his career so far. He's obviously dealt with injuries being in that situation. Reminds me of Tom Brady with his fucking knee shit and then how he came out of that and was just dicing up fucking defenses. It's the exact same shit that I'm seeing out of Joe Burrow. It's fucking ridiculous. Like this guy, it's like his time to the like in the pocket is just fucking so small, and he makes these passes look so fucking easy. So I don't know. I don't have anything else to say other than the fact that I was watching this game and I was reading fucking plays and I was like, holy shit, you got 2 seconds here, less than that, and he's just dialing it into people's chests. So much to the fact that guys were fucking dropping it off their chest. And I was like, this is hilarious to me that it's literally in their hands and off their chest, and it's so fucking dialed, it's right to them. So I was like, I couldn't say anything else. And then it comes obviously late in that game. Like I took the Broncos. I was just like, this is wild. Like they did everything they needed to do and they came through. So I can't fucking say any shit. And it's honestly built up to an entertaining last week for especially you, given all the shit we've talked about the Bengals all this season. So, hey, it's going to be a fun fucking entertaining week for sure.
It absolutely is. And that's all I wanted as a Bengals fan. And I'm sure it's the same with everybody else. Is like,
I mean, you definitely didn't want this way to get to this point. Like if like a couple fucking games in your pocket would have been nice given the fact that these guys are playing the way they are. But holy shit, like it's definitely like, hey, at least you're here, you're in the dance, you're just like the Steelers, you're gonna maybe make it into the playoffs and see where it goes from there.
We need a bit of a Hail Mary here from a lot of other teams, but
Hail Mary.
I can safely sit here and just be like, you know what, like even if we didn't get those other games to come through for us, I can, hang my hat on the fact that the performances by this team and what it means for, we talked about, like, obviously the future of T. Higgins and this team, right? Like, moving forward, things like that have a lot of meaning for what our future is going to look like because when you see performances like that and what this offense is capable of, I just don't see how you break that up. And if you do, then, like, you should really be checked for mental health because I don't know how you let that shit just walk out the door. You have an unstoppable offense, and that's something that you want for the next 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah.
I can't believe this organization
My
lets
biggest
that
thing
walk
was
out
a
the
bit
door,
of the T. Higgins conversation, kind of some like that he might take a cut just to stay with this team, and then Joe Burrow saying the same thing, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is not, when I was talking shit about the contract situation, I did not envision both taking a cut in those scenarios, nor did I envision that T. Higgins himself would not go after his bag given the scenario. But maybe they just got a brotherhood there and they want to fucking tie it up, and money's not the whole thing. That shocked the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie when he said that. So
it's crazy to hear that, and I think we're going to touch on more of this in the offseason too, and a lot of this stuff is on its way. But I said this before, and it's when you have these guys and collectively they are as talented as they are. And then with the cap that we're going to have next year and the things that you can do contractually to open up in free space, like I don't even think T needs to necessarily take a pay cut. Like I think he should be paid appropriately. I wouldn't even be, if I was management, I wouldn't even be like, we're going to need you to take a pay cut. Like I would be paying the guy what he's worth. He's worth not Jamar Chase money, but a good amount of money, the $25, $28 million a year type of contract. I think he deserves that. And with the cap space that we have and pushing back cap hits and all this stuff, I think you can make that shit happen. And if it's a little bit of a trim here and there, I can see all three of these guys maneuvering to make this shit happen, because it's remarkable to watch, really. But on the other end of it, just the game itself, I think this game in a nutshell was what the Bengals season has been, which is an absolute roller coaster. Joe Burrow had 3 game-winning drives in the same fucking game. In the same game. It's pretty remarkable to me, and I think you're seeing the Zach Taylor stuff that I've been kind of going on about there, where it's like the suspect calls and what's going on, and like you're running your kicker out there on 3rd down when it's
this
like,
was awesome.
Dude,
so we're watching the game here, and the one thing in my head I'm just thinking the whole time as Buddy's starting to go for these 4th and 2 with these 4th down calls, and I'm going, I wonder what Bengals is thinking over there, because he's been asking for this guy to have the balls to go for a play all season long. Be that guy, be that fucking coach, do the shit. And then he goes for it, and then I'm like, but did he like that call? Did he make that play? Did he like that he went for the run? Would he have rather he went for the pass? And then I talked to Bengals over here, and I'm laughing because I'm like, what'd you think of the 4th down calls?
Yeah.
What'd you think of the 4th down calls?
Dude, I'm literally like beating my head off the ground. I'm sitting there watching the game, and it just happens. It happens all the time. I've never seen a coach be so just situationally unaware of what his team is and their capabilities. Like it's sad. You almost have like Joe Burrow has to play even better to overcome the incompetence of Zach Taylor and how he manages this team. It blows my mind. It's like the simple thing, when I saw that the 4th down play, not only did he do it on 3rd down, he called a timeout, put guys out there. No, he put guys out there for the 4th down, called a timeout, and put them out in the same fucking formation and ran it straight into the defensive line the exact same way. And you look at that shit and it's like, dude, I don't know how many times you need to do this to see that your interior offensive line and your inside run game fucking sucks. And especially in a down and distance where it's showing run and the defense is playing the run, put the fucking ball in your quarterback's hand who is dicing up this defense. I don't understand it. And it should be that simple to a common viewer for the NFL. It's like, I just don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. So it's tough, right? Like,
hey, no, and then I was laughing the whole time because I was like, that didn't work. I wonder what he's thinking about that.
And then like, they went for it.
Yeah, and then he did it.
Did it again with the field goal. And
this
it's
is
like,
fucking
man,
awesome.
And then he has to, we got lucky and Denver, our defense made some plays for us.
Yeah.
And
which was, albeit as said, for the tight games that I was calling on these fucking close underdogs, that was one thing I said, that the only thing that I felt was going to actually hold them in this game legitimately was going to be not Joe Burrow playing out of his ass, which he ended up doing regardless, but the actual defense holding the front in tight fucking moments in that game. Yeah. It's exactly what they did, and it's a reason that they came through at the end. So
yeah. I will give them their flowers because the defense did make some plays in that game that were huge, and you can't just walk away and say the defense didn't do anything. But that's all we want, right? We just want some plays to be made. I don't expect them to be fucking top 10 in the league, but that's the difference, right? When you look at this team, that's all we need. We just need a defense to make the plays when it matters the most. But like, they also gave up massive plays when it matters the most too. Like Denver made some really big plays.
Yeah. And that was also just Bo Nix playing kind of out of his mind in some of those play calls as well. Like,
see, and this is the thing. Like, every quarterback is playing out of their mind when they play the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know what it is, but it's like you feel it. You sit there and you're like, it's coming. Like, you're clenched up. And you're like, oh my, like you're just watching it unravel and you can't do anything about it. It is pain and suffering.
Some great fucking
It's pain and suffering.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
I was actually sitting through it and I was kind of chuckling to myself because I'm like, the Denver Broncos are fucking. I was like, oh my God, they tied it up. Like, because I didn't fucking, like, right at the end there, I had actually we'd fucking switched something off on the TV. And then I'm checking my phone still. I see the fucking 24-24. I'm like, no fucking way. Are you kidding me? Like, what was that play? And then I saw it after the fact, turn it right back on. But I was like, holy shit, I can't believe that just happened. Yeah, I thought it was done at that point.
It's pretty crazy. But, I mean, after that game and what's gone on, and we've sat up here and we've talked about, like, the MVP and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. We got everybody in the comments on our video clip there debating the whole narrative. I can comfortably sit up here now and say, like, Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Hands down, and I'm not even the only one saying it now.
I love it.
It's everybody else. I don't even need to say it now.
Yeah.
You saw it. He wins in pivotal moments. He's amazing at what he does. And if somehow, some way he was to make it into the playoffs, I do think he should win the MVP with everything that he's overcome. But we can save that argument for another time. But hell of a game. I'm excited for this week and what's to come of that. So,
yeah.
Wicked. Now, let's jump over to the rest of the games. Nothing big. We want to kind of recap some of these big ones. That Packers-Vikings game I really want to touch on because you know how I feel about Jordan Love and the Packers. We already talked about this.
You weren't far off on this call.
And I was kind of going to it.
Yeah.
And we talked about this, and I was showing you, I was like, listen, it's the same narrative I had with Lamar Jackson, and when he has to throw more than 30 pass attempts a game, his record is porous. It's the exact same thing with Jordan Love. When he is expected to throw the ball more than he needs to, this team suffers because he's not that good of a quarterback. This team relies heavily on the run, and I think you saw that in this game, man. When they couldn't run the ball and they got down by 10-plus points, and then you had to shoulder it on Jordan Love there, they struggled. And if it wasn't for just, some shitty, empty time kind of comeback run where you get a little soft and stingy, like, this shouldn't have even been as close a game as it turned out to be. But what were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, that's definitely Josh Jacobs has ignited this team's offense all season long. You can see that in just any of his stats, touchdowns and rushing and everything altogether, right? I still won't hold the bar yet like you do on Jordan Love, but I did look at it and say, it's pretty funny the situation that he's in right now and the struggles that he's having in this game, given the fact that, like, this is when you have to perform in these games, and he didn't quite do that. So I was not saying that he is a system quarterback like you did, but he didn't show up any other different way. Like, it was kind of like when the rush game wasn't there, you're not wrong in saying that he didn't actually perform to the expectations that are there for him. So I will say that this was a tough go for Jordan Love fans out there, and it wasn't necessarily the performance that you wish to have for him. I think we've talked about the Packers organization and how great and well balanced this team is and where they are and why they're there. And I do think Jordan Love's a big part of that. But I won't go on and say he's a system quarterback. Not yet. Not yet, at least. But I do back that, that's a stance that we have here. But I think Josh Jacobs being shut down was a massive part of the fact that
It's huge.
They lost. And, it was a big game. It was a big game. It was a big prove-it game for me.
And don't get me wrong, like, Minnesota's a really good team.
Minnesota's a great fucking team, man.
Yeah, like, they're battling for the 1 seed this week. They are a great team, like, just through and through, and that's a tough matchup. And I'm not just going to hang my hat on that one game. But I do think that's a common theme with Jordan Love against good teams where you can't rely on the run game and you're expected to do a little bit more. Could he use some better weapons? Yeah, probably. I mean, he's got good receivers. I wouldn't put them in any sort of great category.
Yeah.
But that team is clearly built around the run game, right?
That's the one thing. Every single game that I'm watching.
The inconsistency that's not good.
Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, these guys like Hicks. Or Wicks, and then fucking like all these guys. They can have a great game. Dobbs. Like they can have a great fucking game, and it's like a rotation of great games between all of them. Like, but there's never like a consistency of great games for each of them. And like that was my biggest thing. Like I'm looking at Jaden Reed even during fantasy season this year. I'm going, I really like all of the stats behind this guy. Problem is I just don't see necessarily consistency, and whether or not that draws it back to the quarterback situation like we just talked about with just the pass attempts and the situation for completions and where that guy sits in the pecking order, this is where it was kind of like these guys will either have a big game or they'll have an absolute fucking goose egg, and it's really tough to gauge what you're going to get. I've avoided Packer fucking receiving all season long on the lines because I'm just like, I just don't have any trust in the consistency of any other games.
Yeah. They're very matchup contingent. Like, every time they go up against defenses that are better against the pass, they do struggle. Like, I don't see the consistency from their offense unless it's Josh Jacobs. And I think they've become heavily reliant on him, maybe a little bit too much. And I think when you start to play teams that are a little bit subpar and you run over them and you forget what it's like to have to include that passing game element to these things, like, I don't see them winning the games against those top tier teams. They remind me a lot of kind of where teams like the Steelers and the Texans are right now. I think they're better than both those teams, but they kind of exist in that realm where it's like, yeah, I can see you guys winning a playoff game. Do I see you going farther?
On a team, and they did that
Probably
before,
not.
right? Like they can definitely catch you off guard, and I think that's the Packers' biggest asset is they can have that big game where they're just playing a complete game and they'll knock you down, right? So that's where I look at the Packers team, and it's just they're really well built. They're gonna put up those points, which is the big thing with their team is they're gonna put up points, like regardless whether or not it's Josh Jacobs or Jordan Love actually does have one of those good games, but he struggled. He came back from injury at the beginning of the season. He's been dealing with some stuff there. So, it could just be a matter of time before things kind of click, and they're 11-5. So it's not like things aren't clicking.
They are 11-5, and it is, it's a collection of all the pieces on the team, etc. But let us know what you guys think.
Absolutely.
Is Jordan Love a top 5, top 7 quarterback in this league, or you think it's more a collection of the pieces that are the Green Bay Packers? And we'll see. We'll see. Once we get into the playoff matchups here and some of the hypotheticals, we can talk that out and see who they're matched up against. But Vikings, on the other hand, I don't think there's anything else to say except for, like, wow, they're really playing good football, and this is probably the team I'm going to be cheering for in the playoffs.
I'm absolutely on the Vikings train. I want the Vikings. I love the Vikings. I love this matchup that we're going to talk about in the next little bit here. But I think this Vikings team has been such a good watch, and just the absolute ascension of Sam Darnold this year has been just incredible to watch. Oh my God. But then you link back to all of these guys in these draft positions that they were in, the systems that they go into, dog shit systems, and then they get out of them. And then all of a sudden, that talent that was there at the draft, it's actually still there. It was just a dog shit organization that was holding them back. Like, holy fuck. When it comes down to this, you look at this and you go, okay, Baker. What's Baker doing? Yeah, you'd want Baker on your fucking team as a quarterback. Sorry, Cleveland, that sucks. Fucking Darnold. Same situation. Now this guy's going, hey, holy fuck, good coach, good system. Look at us go. So this is what I chuckle to myself about, like, holy, maybe just give guys time. So when, that fucking red flag goes up and they're like, Bryce Young, and they're talking about this guy, I'd be like, shit, I don't want him. No. And then just have him cast off into the fucking thing and be like, I'm going to go get that guy now. Yeah. Because I know my organization is better than yours and I'm going to fucking build him out. Like, holy shit.
Well, did you see
I would just be a
photo?
farm system. You're a farm system for the fucking rest of the league at this point. And that's awesome.
Did you see the photo of Baker and Sam Darnold, like, in the Carolina Panthers uniform?
Yes.
And it was like, this was just 2 years ago, and it's fucking nuts when you look at that. Like, seriously, you got two of these guys, one's going for the 1 seed, a Pro Bowl player, and then you got Baker Mayfield about to be in the playoffs too, leading his team to the second consecutive year of being in the playoffs. Like, that's remarkable, and it ties into what we've been talking about and preaching the entire time, and that's just like coaching and development, and where is that aspect gone in the game? And I think, honestly, if this season has taught us anything, it's the lack of good coaching at the end of the day, and that's why a lot of these players are suffering. And I think
it's just there are some organizations that
too
just fucking suck. And that is such a big part of this. Like,
man, when you are so desperate, sometimes you don't have the patience, and that's why these guys are who they are.
I don't give a fuck about any of the stupidity that comes with organizations. You have billionaire owners. You have the ability to fucking spend and go and get the talent that's around the league, not on the field, but in your fucking front offices. And you elect to stick with the shit. So, sorry, that's a fucking decision that you've decided to make. And if you choose to not want to go out and get the fucking top talent, we always said this about Toronto and the fucking Maple Leafs. Like, you have all the money in the world. The salary cap era is now affecting your team. You can't go out and buy your shit. So what do you got to do? The Yankees have gone through this, where it's like they can't fucking, they're just not going to go out and spend the money because it was not working. So it's like, so what do? You go get top organizational talent in your fucking front office and go spend your money where you should and get the good people, the smart people to run your fucking city, run your town into a championship. We did it. The Raptors are one of the best run fucking organizations in Toronto. Why? Because Masai Ujiri's a fucking god. That's why the New York Knicks wanted them. They were like, we need that guy because our city sucks at basketball right now. Why do they want to do that? They want to go and spend the money. And you need to do that. Yeah. So the same situation happens in football.
But you also have
billionaires.
You can spend
You're the
money.
most rich motherfuckers alive.
But you also have these idiots that like have the money and they spend it on the wrong people in the wrong situations. Like, look what Cleveland did. They got rid of Baker and they spent money. They went out and spent money on the wrong guy, clearly.
Things. And they're shit
because they're desperate, man. They're desperate.
But don't make those desperate calls on the field. Make them in your front office and decide quickly and vigorously that this is not the crew that's going to get you there, right?
Yes,
Patience is a big thing, but if you can't then put that money in the right place into the people that are making these decisions, right, then you're just wasting your fucking time.
Absolutely.
So go out and get the right people. Put the right people in your head office.
Yeah.
Then I guarantee
I totally agree.
You'll see it. Like, I joke, like, the Tampa Bay Rays in fucking baseball are the best run organization in the entire fucking game. And the reason for that is they literally spend $42 million on their fucking, amongst the whole fucking roster. And I think it's a little higher now. But what they do is they just rotate out their talent. They build up, they develop, they get pitching, they get fucking bats. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to trade this guy. We know that we're not going to keep him long term. We're going to trade him. We're going to roll over these assets. And they just build and develop, and keep that rotation going. And it's smart. It's brilliant. It builds out a great team every fucking year. And so it's like, if you know that what your plan is, what your identity is, then roll that. We talked about the Packers. The Packers are great. They fucking do this every year.
Yeah, look what they've done, right? Like, from coaching,
and
organizational. Exactly. Now,
every
like
year.
that's the thing. you have a handful of those organizations in this league, and then you have the teams that don't do that, and you can see that it's visibly evident, and you know who those teams are, right? And then you got like teams like the fucking Dallas Cowboys. They have all the money in the world, and they don't know how to do anything.
They don't know what they're doing
because their heads are up their own fucking asses, and their egos.
They're the Dallas Cowboys.
That's it. So, like, it depends how you want to play it. You got to get the right people in the building to do this.
That's all it is.
I completely.
But then, like
understand.
we said, Jerry refuses to let go of Mike McCarthy, right? Yeah. Like, he refuses to move away from Dak. He refuses to do those types of things because he wants to have a hand in the money of the pot that is his, and that's fine. He wants to go out and buy toys. I get that. But, like, at the end of the day, you got to make the right decisions, or you're going to continue to be stuck in the mud.
Yeah, I just don't think they're good from a GM perspective, that team. But that's a beautiful offseason discussion for sure.
Absolutely.
But kind of going on a bit of a rant there. Let's get into some of these last couple games here quick before we can get into the new narratives that are the Week 18 in the NFL. But the last one's Falcons Commanders. We touch on that. It was closer than anticipated. Falcons came out hot. Bijan won me a couple championships, so I'm sure a few of you guys out there got a couple dubs because you had either Jaden Daniels or Bijan playing. I happen to have both in a couple leagues. Won me a bit of money. Wow, this game right down to the wire, and the guy that was scrutinized forever and ever, Mr. Kyle Pitts, comes up with the clutch TD reception at the end there. Yeah. Safe to say Michael Penix, he doesn't look... He hasn't wowed me or anything like that, but to go down there and win the game, pretty remarkable from a rookie quarterback in a primetime spotlight like that. So it's pretty cool to see that. Like, this rookie class looks to be pretty special.
They're really good.
Right? Yep. And then you got the other side of it, Jaden Daniels, the Commanders, big performance from them. They get into the playoffs, and it's just like, wow, man, like, pretty crazy game. And I think the Falcons are they're hanging on to their hopes here in this last week. Doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs if the Buccaneers win. But Falcons, they're going to fucking finish like 8-9 again. They are seriously a 500 team every single year.
It's I feel bad, to be fair. Like, they actually they pulled the rug at the right time with the Kirk Cousins situation. They probably one game later than it should have been.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem is, like, this team lost this season because of Kirk Cousins just fall off, and that sucks because Kirk Cousins came out so well. Yeah. Fucking Atlanta accepted him so fast. And then this has just been a quick fucking whoop. There we go. We're done now.
Paid him so much money. You had to roll with him. Like, right? But then it just got to the point where it was brutal.
But he just wasn't playing well. Like, he was putting up yards and kind of moving the chains, but, like, clutch moments were not there at the end of the season, and then starts throwing picks. And like I said, I think it's just a couple games too late, maybe 2 games difference on that play. And maybe Michael Penix isn't ready at that point. Maybe that's why they delayed. We don't know. But, like, it could have been maybe the difference here.
Yeah. That's going to be an interesting offseason topic, the whole Kirk Cousins thing. He looks done to me. Doesn't look like he can do a whole lot. He looks like a statue in the pocket, man. Like, I don't see him having a whole lot of success when you look that fragile playing the quarterback position. But these other young guys, they look great. They're going to be awesome to watch moving forward. And hopefully for Falcons fans, they can shatter that kind of 500 record next season. But for this season, it's the Commanders, looks like. And then this final game, Lions 49ers. Man, I think when I watch this game, one, the level of concern I have for Detroit's passing defense is very high. Very high. I just don't see how a team like that is going to be able to win games when your defense is getting diced up by Brock Purdy and their backup receivers. Like, it just... That was
what's
bad.
Funny, though? So if you look at the yardage and throughout the season here, I went Brock Purdy over on yards. Absolutely locked it in. I know you did too. But if you look at the actual team against logs against the Lions, it's almost like a fucking automatic hit on yards against this team.
It is.
They're just give it up, man. Like, it's tough.
You saw the parlay. I showed you
yeah.
and hit that, like it's an automatic. You're taking an over against the Detroit Lions secondary. Like they get carved up, man. Every time Purdy went back for like play action, it's just like a 20-yard shot down the field. I couldn't believe it. And then realistically, they lost only because he started to throw interceptions there. And there were some bad interceptions. Not a good look for Purdy going into his whole contract situation. In a game like that where it's like, hey, show me something here. Like, you go out, you beat the Lions, you look a little bit better going into those contract talks, but not a strong finish for Purdy. And then he had the nerve inflammation in his elbow, I think, there, which made me think, was that not the injury that he got in that NFC Championship game where they didn't have any quarterbacks against the Eagles there a couple of years ago? I thought that was the same injury. And I'm
we'd have to look it up.
That's not a good thing either. Moving forward is health concerns too, so I don't know. But this is going to be interesting to see from Purdy's contract perspective. But 49ers, man, news is that obviously they're going to be retaining John Lynch, the GM, Kyle Shanahan, and I don't blame them. It's not a coaching staff thing.
No,
team
this
just
has
fell
not
apart.
been their
injuries
fault at all.
Yeah, they just didn't. Team went downhill.
Look, what do you want to do? You had literally your entire offense fucking die.
Everybody was injured.
Yeah.
So just wrap it up and come back next year. But Lions, on the other hand, like I said, I know a lot of people are saying Cincinnati has like the best offense in the league. I look at the Lions and I'll tell you why they're the best offense. And this is the one thing that I admire about them and why I think they're so good so good of a team as opposed to like Cincinnati's offense, and why they haven't been able to close out games. And it just simply has to do with their ability to be able to run the ball on you and their offensive line play. Like, sure, they might not have the receivers or the quarterback, but the running game is just unstoppable.
Notoriously had like one of the top 5 lines in the fucking league now for years.
Yeah,
right.
They
like
have
Swift,
the perfect combination of everything. Right? You have receivers that can do everything. You have Amon-Ra who works the inside. You have Jamison Williams who stretches the field and he has that speed threat. You have Sam Laporta who can do a multitude of different things.
Oh, yeah.
You have every type of receiver you need. Then you have multiple running backs. Obviously, Monty's hurt. But you have Gibbs, who is unstoppable. He's so explosive. I was watching them, and I know you took the receiving yards for Gibbs. The way they utilize him in the passing game, you cannot cover him. You can't cover him. It's nuts. They run these tunnel screens to him, and it's wild. When he gets the ball in space, you're just not touching him. Yeah, the difference between their offense and the Bengals' offense, to me, is when you can run the ball like that, you control clock and you can control games, and therefore you can close out games. Whereas Cincinnati has had a problem doing that. It's because they're incapable of running the ball and controlling the clock in the game. And when Detroit does that, they can finish every game. When they have the ball in their hands, you're just not going to stop them because, one, Dan Campbell has balls. He's going on the 4th downs, and you just can't stop them, even in obvious running down situations. Stack the box. They're going to beat you because they got the offensive line and the running backs to do so. So it's pretty remarkable watching Detroit, man. I wish they were a little bit healthier going into this playoffs, but
yeah, me too. That's been the biggest disappointment as this kind of caps off here is like I wanted Detroit, and like not to say that they're out of this. Like they just put up 40 and said fuck you. Like we're that team still. Like don't get it twisted here. Yeah. The points against is definitely a concern over the last few games.
They can score, man. You can't stop their offense either. They can
score. So like we talked about this offense and defense and what wins championships. In this argument, I wouldn't say that Detroit isn't going to be able to pump it on you at any given point in time and take over a game with their team. I'm so upset that Monty got hurt because that backfield was just incredible to watch because it could be at any point either or. And it reminded me this year of Miami a few years ago, right? When they got a chain and they got, I think it was last year actually, and Mostert, and you had that power back and then you had that finesse back. And that combination out of the backfield opens up so much for your team. You can literally, because defenses have to adapt to that. They have to play the different defenses to try and stop. Okay, now we got a power, so we might be fucking right in the box here. Now we got to cover the outside. Like, what the fuck do we do if we get these guys running? Like, and I think that's just such a big asset to have. And it honestly, I think, is going to be a big thing of how, because we see it in the NFL now, it's been a couple teams that have started to utilize this, and they have an explosive offense that they then try to they can just ram it on you. Miami did the same thing, right? Like, that's what made them click. It was exactly what you just said, right? Just those different assets on offense that you can start to run so many different ways. Yeah, and it's like, then the defense situation sucks. Hutchinson sucks. Everything sucks there. Like, that's why we'll see honestly, this game this week, massive to kind of tell me what this team is.
It is going to be huge, and that's going to be exciting to see. It will be a telltale of going into the playoffs. But man, I don't think I've ever seen a matchup like this, like somebody with these two records where it comes down to fighting for the one seed in the same division. I don't think I've ever seen this in my lifetime watching football. So this is going to be really cool to watch. I can't wait. I'm excited for it. We got some good, meaningful football this weekend. And that's kind of where we can segue into now off of touching on that Week 17 slate. I want to dive into Week 18, where we're at right now, because I'm excited for these games coming up. And I think before we get into anything, let's start with some player news, some injury notes, rest updates, all that good stuff. We got a few meaningful games and a lot of meaningless games, but let's touch on the bigger player news and the injuries and the rest reports we got here. And we'll start off with first, Packers corner Jair Alexander done for the season. Arthroscopic knee surgery. That's a big blow to the Packers. We already talked about them and how I feel about them losing their top corner. That's going to be tough for them. So I don't know. We'll see how the Packers fare. We just saw them last week, and Sam Darnold, the Vikings, took care of that defense pretty easily. So we'll see how they fare moving forward. But now let's look at the teams that are the most important resting their starters moving into this week. You have the Eagles, biggest one here. We already touched on this. Nick Sirianni deciding to bench his guys while Barkley is only a handful of yards here away from getting the rushing record. Now, I'm curious, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, this is a wild one. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out on TikTok, guys. Posted a clip there. Basically broke it down that this opens up, a lot of opportunity just from the Offensive Player of the Year award, and what that means for that. Now, he is the heavy favorite still heavy favorite. Minus 10,000.
I do not understand.
It's wild to me.
I don't understand that.
But that being said, Jamar Chase is in line for the Triple Crown this year. He will get that. I don't think there's any question that that's going to happen just with his lead on all the categories right now at this particular time. And he has to play this Sunday, unlike Saquon, which is a big deal. That being said, like, the fact that it pulled back the opportunity from Saquon and against his former team is kind of crazy to me. I get it. I understand. You lose that. You have Jalen Hurts that's hurt right now. You're running a situation where you don't want to lose your key assets running in right now. But there is also that, historical reference, what that can mean to your franchise and what that means altogether, right? Yeah. And I think one of those things is you let that guy play that out. And then if you're that good of a team, you get him on the bench as soon as that happens. And it doesn't have to be any further than that. And we know what the Giants' fucking defense is against the run. It was going to happen maybe in the first fucking quarter. Could have even happened in the first half. Like, there was very much an opportunity to let this play out and probably be fine as a result. I also do understand from the Saquon injury history that's plagued him in his career before to be a little cautious in these moments. But it's just one of those shitty scenarios where you're looking at a guy breaking an all-time record and you're saying, holy shit, I want to see that. I want to be a fan and watch that happen. They're in the position that they can afford to do this, which sucks for us, good for them.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you, but at the same time, I'm also like, man, Saquon is such a good person too. At the same time, like he's not the type that just would accept the award on behalf of himself. He knows, the offensive line and everybody else in that locker room, and what it takes to put him in the position to be there to break a record like this. So it sucks to see, man, because I would have loved to see Saquon etch his name into history, and to hold your guy back like that. I don't know how I feel about it, man, because I heard like Bill Belichick came on NFL Network on SiriusXM, and he was talking about, he got asked the question like, what would you do? And Bill said like, it's not fair to the team as a whole to let him go after something like that, because then you set the standard of like, you get to break this record and you can go break this record. Like I know you got to set that precedent, but at the same time, this is a record that's won by, yes, an individual, but also, like I just said, it takes the efforts of everybody on that team to win something like this. And I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a tough one to answer. But if somebody goes down with an injury, that's big. So you don't want to.
Yeah, it's massive to their situation right now, and like they need that. They need him, and I get it, right? Like
I understand.
The wild part to me is it's not playing scared. It's not, right? But this same thing could happen on the first play of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so, you just to not play that through, and sometimes is resting times, and we don't know what the injury stuff behind the scenes is with Saquon either, right? Like there could be other lingering stuff that needs a break, right?
Yeah.
And that's the situation that we're dealing with. But it's unfortunate just as a fan to watch that. And you said obviously as the team has kind of progressed here, it's a massive win for the team as well, just to kind of speak to, hey, I was a part of that, right? And we're going to be a part of something big here, and not just maybe individual awards, but something bigger than that. And this guy's been a big part of that throughout the season. So
yeah, and I'm sure that was Sirianni's message to the locker room was like, yeah, there's bigger things at play here. Even though that would be nice, there are bigger things at play. Yeah. So that's Eagles. Then you got the Rams resting their starters as well. Matt Stafford and them. I do think there's still implications involving their team and seeding. This was kind of interesting to me, and I know there was questions about this, and McVay just said, like, doesn't matter what team we're playing, we're going to be ready. Some of these guys need rest, and I know, like, Stafford obviously being older, Cooper Kupp, like, you got some guys that are a little bit older that are going to need the rest. But I think the difference in, like, seeding when you get to it, if the Rams lose, and then the Buccaneers would, if they win, jump the Rams would then play the loser of that Vikings-Lions game in the first round versus playing the Commanders potentially. So it's a I mean, when I look at that, I'm like, I don't want to play Minnesota or Detroit in the first round. So interesting take there, Mr. McVay. I don't know how I feel about that one.
Yeah, that's one of those situations where I respect the play. I actually do. I think that's one of those, like, I'm always been on the you got to win them all, right? Like, you got to win them all train. Now, those that choose the easier path, sometimes come out on top. Those that take that path to the spoil, like, I think that is sometimes even bigger, right? Like, if you know that you got to beat the best at the best and be the best, like, you got to get into that and fucking run in it regardless of who you're facing, right? Yeah. So, like, Super Bowl doesn't matter if you're playing a shit team. You're still going to try and win that game regardless. And even if it's the best team, you're still trying to win that game regardless. So I've never liked that mentality that, you choose who you want to play, or you want to kind of guide your way into that easier matchup. I understand it, but that's not setting a tone of championship mentality for your team. And so I actually back this. I agree with McVay on this. Like, if I'm going to win, we're going to win it either way, right? So we're going to take this opportunity to sit some guys, get some health back in our play. Again, Stafford's been historically hurt, give him that little bit of a game off to get that game back later on in the season in the playoffs here. I think that's not a bad choice to make. I actually kind of understand it.
Yeah. No, I get it. And, I mean, based off the way they played against the Cardinals last week, they did look tired. It wasn't a great game for them.
It was not a good game. What did they do? Right? Like, they're not putting up points at all right now.
I know. They did not look good offensively, and maybe they do need some rest. So we'll see how that plays out. But that'll be a conversation to be had, once the matchup comes, and then we can go on and play the what-if game down the line. But the last team we got here, resting players, is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs. I mean, like, I already fucking hate the Chiefs, so it is what it is at this point. You might as well just lay it on me, Kansas City. Just keep doing your thing. But when I look at this, like I said, I could care less. They're 9.5, 10-point favorite. It might be 10.5 right now. Point underdogs against Denver. Carson Wentz is going to be starting. I looked at the list of players.
MVP.
Who's going to be sitting out.
MVP.
Yeah. Going to need an MVP showing here, Carson Wentz, for sure. But I honestly, I looked at this and I was like, if I wanted anybody's backups to go into a game where I needed them to win, it would be the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's fair.
They are the most well-coached football team in the league, and I expect there to be the carryover between the starters and the secondary. Not even to mention the second unit of the Chiefs has been efficient, the Justin Watsons, the Noah Grays. These guys have had snaps this year. They've been efficient. Guys like D-Hop are going to be playing. These dudes are going to be playing ball, and they've played this year. And Carson Wentz is no scrub. We've seen what he can do. And you get the narratives, too. It's like, this dude's going out there. He's trying to show people that he can still ball, right? I don't expect the Chiefs to just lay over in this game. At least that's what I'm hoping for. And that's what I'm telling myself. But I also, at the end of the day, man, if we win our game in Pittsburgh and it comes down to that, yeah, sure, it will suck, but I'm not going to sit here and whine and cry about it. We could have taken care of our own business earlier in the year, and I think that's the bigger story. But if by some luck of the draw we get in there, it'd be amazing. But I
love the NFL fans and the conspiracy theories that come up. That's the Chiefs are scared to face the Bengals because the Bengals won and da-da-da-da-da. I love it. I love all the shit that comes up. But you're not wrong in
storylines.
The Bengals definitely, they need this. This is the biggest. This is putting your hands, in with the Chiefs here. That's a tough pill to swallow, especially considering. So, yeah, this is one of those games. But I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong in that this team is built to win regardless of who's playing. Yeah. It scares me that they're going to have this ability to do this and get into the playoffs and do what they're going to do. Three-peat, not anywhere out of the question here with this team. They've figured this out once again. It's what they do. It's what they are. Anyone else who fucking wants to deny that, you're out of your fucking mind. And it is what it is. But to say that the Chiefs are not able to do this, no, I disagree. I think they could fuck up Denver right now, just really fuck up a bunch of shit.
When I look at it, I'm just
spoiled, right?
You also have a Denver team who could have punched their ticket weeks ago, right? There is a tremendous amount of pressure on this team, and especially that rookie quarterback, Bo Nix, to go win this game. And you have a Chiefs team that's we're in one seed. We're having a good time.
We'll go 16-1.
We're just going to go fucking do whatever we need to do, right? And if anything, I can see that happening here regardless. Is it a long shot? Yes. But I'm going to enjoy the games regardless. And we'll see. Hopefully, praying for that Carson Wentz miracle here and lead us to the promised land, buddy, because I just want to watch Joe Burrow in the playoffs, man. He's playing ball. I want to see that. And when we get into those playoff scenarios, I
can't wait.
Even if the Bengals get into the playoffs, it's going to be wild. But some of these last things here, the other game we need, the Bengals need, Tyler Huntley is going to be starting for the Dolphins this week.
Saw that.
And we talked about the potential that this could be Aaron Rodgers' last game. Same thing with Devontae Adams. He's throwing that, the 500th touchdown pass or something like that. I expect Rodgers to go in there and the Jets to play a good fucking game. against, Tyler Huntley, Dolphins. Like, I think this is going to be some meaningful football, and I hope they can pull this out for us. I think the last team anybody wants to watch in the playoffs is the Miami Dolphins. Like, no offense, but
it's wild that they're here.
It is very wild
that they're here. Like, that they're in this discussion. It just
speaks to the competition, unfortunately, at the bottom of the AFC like that. But we'll see. I think the other thing that came out of that was Tua guarantees he will play in the wild card round. Quote here, no ifs, ands, or buts from Tua. Sorry, pal. Nobody wants to watch you in the playoffs, and you're not getting in. So that's that. But we got Anthony Richardson sitting out in the finale. Titans are starting Will Levis in the finale. That's going to be wild. And then this last one here kind of confused me, but the Cowboys released Zeke Elliott. Mm-hmm. At first I was like, why? And then when I realized, I then understood why I was so confused. Mm-hmm. To give him a chance to sign with a contender. Mm-hmm. I don't know what kind of ball you've been watching this year, but is there anybody that would even want to sign this guy? No fucking disrespect, but
he's goal line specialist.
What team is going to need Ezekiel Elliott
goal line specialist
on this stretch here?
Maybe Detroit goes out and gets him.
Just the 1 yard runs. We just need that
1 yard
runs. Wow. To me, it was shaking my head. I'm like, dude, I don't know about that one, but hats off. Like, hopefully.
Yeah, it was shocking. You know what I laughed at as well was the first team that they listed under contenders was the Bengals, and I was
honestly, I thought about that too.
What
I'm like,
the fuck is happening right now?
We don't have a guy that can just fall forward for a yard at this point.
Yeah.
Like, he might be the best fit for our offense if we get him.
He finds that one little gap that doesn't exist. Yeah.
That would be funny. All we need is for you to fall forward for a yard, buddy. That's it. Just fall forward, don't fall backwards, and maybe he'll find a home if we get in. Who knows? So that's kind of the player news, injuries. Now let's get into some of the narratives we have here going into the season. We kind of already talked about some of the playoff seeding and the scenarios, so there's only a couple things that can happen here to finalize the playoff picture. So in the AFC, the last three teams, the Broncos, the Dolphins, and the Bengals, are all vying for that last wild card seed. If the Broncos win, easy, it's done. They're in the playoffs. If the Dolphins win, they need the Broncos to lose, and they are in. And then the Bengals need both teams to lose, and they need to win their game to get in. So obviously we got the worst odds out of that. But who knows? Who knows what happens? We just discussed that. Now, some seeding things, big stuff. The Steelers and the Chargers can end up swapping places if Pittsburgh ends up losing and the Chargers win. Why is that significant? Because Pittsburgh, initially right now, if they finish in that first wild card spot, they would be going to Houston to play the Texans in the first round. If they get bumped by the Chargers, they will be going to Baltimore in the first round. Considering all things considered, Baltimore wins the division this week against Cleveland, locks that up. Pretty big.
Yeah.
Then pretty big implications
quickly just
there.
Talk about the Baltimore spread right now.
20 points in that Cleveland game.
20
I think it's safe
spread.
to say they're going to win.
I think they're favored to win that game.
Yes, and we were just talking about this. If Baltimore did happen to lose, this would be the biggest upset in the NFL since like 1958, I think I saw. Not sure what it was, but that would be wild. Safe to say Baltimore's going to win this division. Now, the other implication I had read was because Baltimore plays in the early game tomorrow on Saturday, if Baltimore was to win and lock up the division, could Pittsburgh potentially rest some guys going into the Bengals game? But then I looked at the seeding implications and just the fact that they've lost 3 in a row. I just don't see this team laying down, right?
Yeah.
But TJ Watt's been banged up, like things like that. Those are the things I want to look at based on that.
That might be the play that they make. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like if that happens and they've already forfeited that at least that position, then maybe it's just then a good call to say, hey, like, it doesn't make sense for us to battle. Like, it's the same shit that's happening with the Eagles, right? Like, you just sometimes you just have to make a good, smart call. Now, do they say, hey, we're gonna lose 4 in a row here, and say, fuck, that's not a good start to anyone's playoff dreams, for sure. So it's a tough scene to kind of be into. I think you're more on it probably in saying that they're going to start their guys. And TJ's also a fucking gamer, man. So I'm not really like, I don't envision him being like, nah, I need this. Like, I think they'll be out there.
I do too. I would agree. So I expect the best from Pittsburgh this weekend. And then we go over to the NFC side. The only implications here are the Bucs and the Falcons. Whoever wins, whoever loses. The Bucs win, they're in. If the Falcons win and the Bucs lose, Falcons are in. I expect the Bucs to win. And then it's after that, the implications
it's like a 90% chance that the Bucs are good. And the Falcons are out.
So I expect the Bucs to be in, and like I said, seeding wise, the Bucs can jump to that 3 spot if the Rams lose here, which resting their starters against the Seahawks, I expect them to lose. And then what's going to happen is the Bucs will end up in the 3 spot. They'll end up playing probably the Commanders first round, and then that 3rd wild card spot essentially is going to go to Philly. So whoever finishes in that last spot there, that's a tough matchup. So I think it's Commanders and Packers can swap positioning. The Commanders have the 2nd currently based on winning and losing this week. So that'll be interesting to see because I don't think anybody wants to go to Philly. And we talked about Jordan Love. Yeah. How's a trip to Philly sound, buddy? Not great. So that'll be a wild one to watch. Now, we want to some quick things I want to hit on before we kind of get into talking about some of the bets that we're looking at for the week and things to watch. The Pro Bowl and some of the names, some of the snubs here, if you want to call them that. The biggest headline to come out of this, and there's been some controversy to me, should not be controversy at all. And I want to get your thoughts on this, but Mr. Patrick Mahomes did not make the Pro Bowl roster this year.
Yeah,
and there seems to be some sort of uproar.
I don't know what this is.
People, I don't understand it. I truly don't understand it.
He has not played. Patrick Mahomes last year was not the best, but played well. Right? Yeah. Obviously, won the fucking big ticket, so that's fine. That's what you got to do, and that's why I said I think at the beginning of the season, you can tail that back to an earlier pod where I was basically like, you know what? Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all these guys, they don't have to fucking play this year to the extent that is what we're used to here. Yeah. They reminded me so much of the game management that was happening with the Lakers and fucking LeBron, and you just got to kind of coast to get to the end of this. And then, here we go, meaningful games. Now we're going to play and show up and do our thing, right? Not to say that they haven't shown up this season, 14-1, that's clearly fucking good, or 15-1. Yeah, that works, 15-1. Right?
Quite the coast by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Quite the fucking coast. But if you look at the individual stat lines of all the players on the team, no one stands out in any way. They have been relatively consistently coasting in all of their play. And each person has kind of gotten a little bit of light, but no one's really stood out. And no one's really been that player to me that was like, oh shit, like Patrick Mahomes, I don't think he has 26 touchdowns on the fucking season. And like his yardage is like, I think 10th or 11th in the league. Like he's doing Patrick Mahomes things, which is just winning games, and that's all you need to do. That's the big stat. That's the biggest stat of them all. But when it comes to his actual individual performance, it hasn't been that grandeur. Like there hasn't been that big.
Which is what the Pro Bowl is completely based off.
Yeah, so like if they're going to nominate these guys, put these guys in these spots, there's a lot more quarterbacks that have had better seasons all fucking season long than Patrick Mahomes. So I was kind of like,
it's clear as day. Like there's no question.
We're talking about multiple guys in some of these videos that we have, right? And like we're talking every single one of them, and we haven't talked about Patrick Mahomes. Like, not one of these in our comment section and everything that's going on right now, no one's even mentioning this guy. Probably no one wants to, but no one is. And the reason no one is because he's just not been that player this year. No. Like, he ruined my fucking season long by not throwing 30. And now that's definitely not happening now. Thanks, pal. Like, you don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
that's cool. You're a minus 260 for 30 touchdowns. The fucking biggest, the worst fucking leg that should have lost, and you did. So fuck, I don't give a fuck.
That was the first one you locked in. You're like, yeah.
I was like, yeah, it should be fine. Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, like, you sit here and you watch it, nobody's sitting there going, oh man, that Chiefs team is winning because of Patrick Mahomes. Like, nobody.
No. Well. It's like they are what they are, and he's clutch, and things happen.
He is
right.
He wins when presented the opportunity.
The biggest thing for me is
that's great.
Flags will fly, but his fucking play will still seal the deal every time. So it's like you can get those calls your way, but you got to capitalize on them still. A lot of teams do that, but he still finds a way. So
he hasn't been a top 3 quarterback this year.
Absolutely
at all.
not.
Those three guys are much more deserving of Pro Bowl.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, like that is what it is. I don't think there's any discussion to even be had. Like, I know some people are up in arms. I'm like, dude, like, the days of Patrick Mahomes throwing
shut up. You gotta go to the fucking Super Bowl. Shut the fuck up.
That's what I mean. Like, it's what statistically hasn't done anything.
He's not been that guy this season.
It's just it hasn't been him. That's not where their success has come from. Like, when you look at these other guys, it's like, wow, these guys have really brought their teams up, and they don't have the same supporting cast. And you just haven't seen the magic from them. So there's nothing to be said on that. I think the bigger one, when you look at the receivers for the AFC side of things, you got obviously Jamar Chase, you got Nico Collins, and then the one that stood out to me was Zay Flowers and Jerry Jeudy making it in over Brian Thomas Jr. And when I looked at the stats and I compared them, I was blown away. Like, this dude has double the touchdowns of these guys, and he is not in the Pro Bowl. Like, is it just a rookie thing? Like, you're just not putting him in because he's a rookie?
Touchdowns, yards, it had a gap on that too, and the rookie yards, right? Like, he's not putting up much of a worse season. Obviously, rookie tight ends in their own regard with Brock Bowers, but if you look up the yardage and the receptions and everything, fucking Buddy's right there too. So it's like you're talking Brock Bowers in this same rookie sense. Now you look at these stats comparatively, and you're like, oh, like it's not far off at all. So,
and I know that Jerry Jeudy has had that stretch here at the back end, so I understand the hype.
But that was also that's Jameis Winston putting up a fucking 5 TD, 500 yards.
A massive game against your old team. I get it, but Brian Thomas has been consistently good all year.
Consistent, man.
Zay Flowers. Has anybody even mentioned? No disrespect to Zay Flowers, hell of a player, but has anybody even mentioned that guy's name all season? Standout? When I'm watching these guys, nobody's sitting here going, "Wow, fucking Zay Flowers." Fuck no! Like, that's not how that team operates too. And when I pull up the stats here, like, dude, receptions, 80. Brian Thomas, Zay Flowers, 73. He is winning in every stat category. Reception yards, 1179 to 1047. Reception touchdowns, 10-4, dude. It's remarkable to see these stats, and I'm like, how the fuck did Zay Flowers get in? But this is where you look at it. It's a popularity contest, man. When you're the Ravens have like the most Pro Bowlers in the games right now, and that's all it is. Like, it's let's throw this guy a bone type of deal, and just because this guy's a rookie, he'll get in, down the line. Like,
that was my curiosity. The next point is like, representation for these teams, right?
Ravens have never had a wide receiver in the Pro Bowl, and
how you cannot have those things. Like Brian Thomas here, like, be a part of that with that season. It's crazy. Snub. That's the snub of the year for sure.
Yeah. That's a fucking joke. So that was a little bit infuriating to me, but kind of is what it is.
It doesn't help that he's a Raven.
I mean, even take away the bias. I think anybody in their right mind could understand.
No, you just list the facts, man. Facts.
It's a little fucked up, right?
Yeah.
So But yeah, let's get into the slate of games here. Like we said, we got a few that stand out the most. And then a lot of them are just kind of like whatever. And then we got some stuff we want to go over here, some incentive stuff that we got to watch for this week, because those are the bets you want to make when it comes down to the incentives here on the line. But some of the things that stood out, we obviously know Mike Evans, his incentives. We'll touch on that as we go through some of the games. But let's go over our Saturday slate here first. We got the Browns at the Ravens. You already saw the spread, 20. It's safe to say the Ravens are wrapping this one up here. I don't even expect their guys to be in for the full game, depending on how quick this could get wrapped up. Throw the backups in, go from there. Browns are starting, man, I'm blanking right now. The Bailey Zappi. That's who they're starting at quarterback.
Which one? Yeah.
I was blanking there.
Yeah.
Bailey Zappi will be starting for Cleveland this week. So I think that says enough there. This is going to be a sweep.
Who's the running back? Who's the quarterback?
No idea. Jerome Ford's
we got
out.
Jerry Jeudy. He's a
Joku's
Pro
not
Bowler, so we're good.
They're missing a lot of their guys. Like this is going to be wild, man. This is going to be wild. Yeah. So I'm just going to enjoy the Ravens winning that, and then hope that affects the next game we want to talk about here. Massive implications. This is the one that everyone's going to be watching. This is going to be a good one. Bengals at Steelers. This game is taking place at 8 p.m. on Saturday.
I love that.
Yes.
I
Night
love
game,
that.
prime
That's
time.
The best.
So I think this is the first time in history that a team's actually played 5 primetime road games. The Cincinnati Bengals, 5 primetime road games. That's pretty crazy. Joe Shiesty. Must-watch TV right now.
You're not wrong.
Right now,
you're not like the shit that he's doing right now is entertaining, man.
It is, and this can be a good game, man. Like I said, I just want to go out on top against the Steelers. Like, I don't care what else happens. Just I need Zach Taylor to show me.
Steelers.
Yeah, I need Zach Taylor to show me that he can win a game.
Well, you go above 500 then, and it makes you feel a little bit better about this season. Just didn't quite get it done early. So we'll see how this all plays out.
And that's okay. Like we have a lot of that shit we can talk about later on coaching staff and changes that need to be made and who's responsible for these things. But this is a show me game. I need it because last game I told you I just need to see something from Zach. I don't necessarily think I saw what I wanted to see from Zach. Saw everything from Burrow and the boys, but Zach is still. I need to see some calls where I'm like, fuck, that was a good call. That was the right call. That's what I want to see, and I need to see them close this game out. So, a couple injuries on our side. Chase Brown monitoring that. Not sure if he's going to play, but these are big things. Now, me and you have kind of discussed this game in length on the side of some bets that we wanted to take. So I want to get you kind of your thoughts on how you think this game is going to go, and then I can kind of add my points and what do you think the play is here?
Absolutely. We've talked about this. Completions for Joe Burrow is almost near automatic this season. Like he has been.
Feels like it.
It feels like it because it is. Like his stat line for the completions overall, and it's at, what's it at? I think it's high though. Right? Like
right now it's 25.5 right now. It actually came down from 26.
Oh, nice. So 26.5 is his regular line throughout the season here. So 25.5 is even juicier. I wonder why that is. That's a little sneaky. I don't know.
So I'm trying to monitor the storylines here to keep up with that.
Yes.
I think we have a good opportunity here, and I talked to you about this.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'll pull up some of the stats here quick. So we talked about the line, Joe Burrow completions being 25.5, and then we can look at kind of his game log for the season, and we go to completions. Joe Burrow's had only 6 games where he's thrown under that number. Everything has been 26 plus completions, and when you look at those numbers that are sub. Those are the games that happened in September and October when the Bengals were having a rough stretch. Joe Burrow, the offense was struggling. But when you look at the rest of these, it's all 26-plus completions. And then on the other side of things, the spicy take here is the over on completions, but the under on passing attempts. And the reason I want to outline that is we talked about Joe Burrow's efficiency, right? He is the most accurate in the league currently right now, and he has one of the highest completion percentages. So when I go over to the attempts, the attempt line right now currently is 49.5. And I look at the game script and I go, okay, we know Joe Burrow's dialed in. He is throwing at a massive rate and completing passes at a massive rate. But when we look at the attempts and who they're playing in the game script, first thing being, Pittsburgh is one of the top teams in the slowest pace of play. So therefore, I expect the game to be slowed down a little bit and more time taken off the clock just based on the way Pittsburgh plays. Another thing, too, is based on Pittsburgh's ability to rush the passer, I do think they may steal a few more possessions as opposed to a team like the Broncos did, right? Based on that, I expect him to have less pass attempts in total. And when we look at the line from when they played Pittsburgh last time, his completions, 28, which would be over. His attempts, 38, which would be under. Similar narrative here. Now, I expect this game to be a little bit tighter, but you also have the fact that, one, they have to win the game. Jamar Chase is chasing the Triple Crown, and this could potentially be the last time T. Higgins plays. Joe Burrow will be throwing and completing passes. So I do think the play here is Joe Burrow completions over and under on the passing attempts. And even if, Pittsburgh wants to rest their guys at the end, that even aids in the fact that they're going to be, they don't have to throw at the end if they have this game locked up. But
so I'll give you an additional stat to this. So on the opening lines that they've set for Joe Burrow throughout the season, he is currently 9-7 on the opening line for the pass attempts. When you break that down to the same question for the completions, I pull this up here, he is 11-5 on his completions. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about over and we're talking about under, 11-5. When you look at the last game since week 8, he's currently 8 of 9 over on his completions. Yes. He has been locked in. It is not the same stat line for pass attempts. So I think this is actually a juicy pick here. I will be running this with you. This is absolutely one of those things. He has been dialed in the last half of the season. It's just been incredible to watch. The lines they've been setting for him, opening lines have been lower. So that's something to kind of monitor as things go along. That 25.5 is actually pretty nice, all things considered. But his opening line has actually been sitting more around the 24.5 mark. And it's creeped into that 25.5. It has not been as high as 26.5 as we saw it earlier. So the fact that it creeped back to 25.5 gives me a little hope that we're looking at a good situation here.
Yes, and we did the math as well. When you look at Joe Burrow, his completion percentage currently on the season, 69.8. When you do the math with the attempts and
their odds,
yes, their odds as well. The math, they're essentially assuming that he's going to be shooting underneath 64%. His average. Yeah. So I'm going to side with the fact that Joe Burrow has been hitting his completion percentage that high on a consistent basis, and it's been heavily in the last slate of games that he's had. And for them to project him to have such a drop in his completion percentage, I don't see how that checks out with the way that he's playing.
Yeah, the way we looked at it was like basically right now the projected line was 64% was going to be his completion percentage, which is lower than his season average. And then when you couple that with the game against the Steelers prior, that game he was 73%. So you bring those two numbers together and you really factor in the pass attempt situation as well and the other things that you just said, this does bode well for the over and the under working together here.
Yes, and the one thing I wanted to look at was Joey Porter Jr. is playing for Pittsburgh on the weekend. I know he's banged up. He missed a couple games. Dante Jackson is questionable, but the last time the Bengals played Pittsburgh, T. Higgins had his way with Joey Porter Jr. Now, I know that Pittsburgh is obviously playing a little bit more pride here now. There's going to be a lot on the table, but like I said, you're not going to stop Joe Burrow in this passing game. Completions are going to be there. It's the passing attempts. I do believe it's not going to be a shootout from that sense. I think the pace of play is going to slow down against this Pittsburgh Steelers team. So lock it in. Joe Burrow over pass attempts, over pass completions, under on the pass attempts. Beautiful. Love that. Don't you just love dissecting?
And at this point, you might as well throw him
here?
3 touchdowns on that play as well, because that's just what this guy's been fucking doing for the last 9 weeks.
Consistently. Yeah. So there will be a couple variations I'll be sticking together with that one.
For sure.
Because I do like that, but just lock in the completions. I think that number is an easy play. Joe Burrow will get to that number for sure. So I'm excited to watch this game, man. I'm stoked. This is going to be some good football on a Saturday evening. And I'm hoping my boys show up and Joe Burrow, close out the season on a high note here. But let's get into some of these other games. So moving on to the Sunday slate, not a whole lot. Did anything stand out to you prop-wise with some of these games? I know a lot of them are a little bit more irrelevant. The things that were big were more of the incentive-based plays.
Yeah. We should get into those because I think that's the biggest thing that's going to come out of this. There's too many sitting, resting individuals to really kind of figure out outside of like what really matters at this point in the season, which is, teams are locked up. They're resting their guys. You can definitely play a lot of, your regular thoughts on these games in terms of money lines, but that would be the only thing. Money lines and spreads is probably your best bets here on the week. Not necessarily the props, because like we said, there's going to be guys that are going to get up in games and then they're just going to start benching their players. So some of those, it might be a great under week, to be fair.
Could be, yeah. Now, do you have any that stood out to you? I think I got a couple of them here. So one being Mike Evans, obviously has a massive incentive. 5 receptions and 85 reception yards. He gets $3 million.
And Buddy wants it all. And it's
not only
even
that,
Mike
he's
Evans.
chasing the $1,000
It's
or
Baker
1,000 yards.
Mayfield.
Right? Yeah,
Baker Mayfield. I don't know if Mike's like, yo, I'll buy you whatever you want. I don't know if there's a situation going on here, but it's fucking funny to watch how much Baker's like, yeah, I got this shit covered for him. We're gonna get him the ball. So no, that's the one I'm 100% looking at.
Yeah.
Number one, from a history perspective. Number two, from just what Baker Mayfield is, man. Yeah. He is that guy that is going to die on that hill and get that for him. It's just I look at that, I'm like, that is locks to me. That's the one.
I think we're going to be rolling a player incentive parlay this weekend. That's going to be fun. So next one we got Geno Smith, 185 plus passing yards. If he hits that mark, he gets an extra $2 million. So that's another one to look at. We talked about the Chiefs resting starters. DeAndre Hopkins gets an incentive, $750,000 if he gets a touchdown, 6+ receptions, and 140+ receiving yards, which receiving yards, bit of a reach, but the other ones, I think he has something to play for there too, so that's good. We got Kyler Murray as well, 1 rush TD plus 50 rushing yards, gets another $750K. Derrick Henry, 1 touchdown, another incentive. There's your anytime TD parlay play. This is probably going to be minus 300.
Cleveland? Yeah, Cleveland has a good thing against the run, but we talked about that. Anytime you think they have a good defense, fucking play Derrick Henry.
That's it. Next up, Cortland Sutton, 82+ receiving yards. Tony Pollard, 83 rushing yards. Joe Mixon, 107+ rushing yards. J.K. Dobbins, 58+ rushing yards as well. So these are all plays that you guys should keep an eye out for if you want to run some of the incentives.
That Mixon one is interesting.
I like
the Mixon one.
And I think because he's had kind of a bit of a stretch here where he's not having a good time. He hasn't been rushing very well. I think he'll be going after that. He's playing, I think who they got? The Colts this week?
They got the Titans.
They got the Colts. Titans?
Titans.
Interesting. So I can see that going through too. Houston needs to win a game, man. They can't roll into the playoffs.
They got it. Same thing, right?
Yeah, just like
Pittsburgh.
But that's big. So aside from that, the games that stand out, a lot of meaningless football. Bucks got the Saints. They should close out that division there. And then when you look at some of the later games here, the biggest game, and we got to talk about that, is the Vikings and the Lions, right? Like,
amazing.
I think I'm taking the over on every single Minnesota throwing play here because Detroit's fucking defense is so ass. Like, initially, if we go to Bet365 and pull up some of the things here, I want to see potentially what is left for the Minnesota Vikings. Jefferson's line, I've loved the Addison plays lately. I think those are big. He's been coming through. I think with Jefferson at his side, it's kind of like you get the deflated number with Addison. He doesn't get as much love. So we'll take a quick look at these lines here. Player receiving props. Jefferson 94.5, Addison 62.5. Like, I think Addison's getting locked in for sure for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the way that he's been utilized and going up against that Detroit team, no bueno. So I'll be looking at some of these receiving props for sure. But I'm excited. Who do you think's going to take this one?
I think Minnesota's going to take this. I think just what's happened throughout this year
with you, man.
And the lines that they've been putting up and what they're doing as a team. We talk about obviously the offensive prowess of Detroit, and that's very fair. Like, this team is fantastic. They're fucking unbelievable when it comes to their power offense. But Minnesota is not far the fuck off here with how they're running their team. Like, and they can shut down the run, which is very interesting to me.
We
in
saw
this
that
game.
last week against the
and
Packers.
we'll see whether or not they can do that with Gibbs. We talked about how dynamic he can be, right? This is it's a very interesting game because there are conflicting powers coming on here. Where fucking Minnesota, yeah, maybe they're not so good on the in the back end in the secondary, but they can stop everything up front, which has been really the tool that Detroit has used to overcome a lot of obstacles this season as well. So I look at this team and I go, you know what? Darnold's playing. Darnold's cutting up defenses. We just talked about the situation there with the secondary with Detroit right now.
Yeah.
I can't say that he's not going to do the same thing again. And those assets between Jefferson and Addison, this game matters. And even Jones out of the backfield. Like, I just see a lot of things happening here to favor Minnesota. We'll see what happens here, but I'm on the Minnesota train. The money line right now is Detroit. So I've played the money line for Minnesota this entire time. I'm ready to do it again, 100%.
Yeah. I think I'm with you, man. I think I'm rolling Minnesota this week too, just based off, Detroit's defense. Like I said, they looked very suspect against the 49ers last week. And I think Minnesota is just built all around and everywhere. So this is going to be an amazing game, but I'm going to roll Minnesota too. But I think that kind of wraps up our show for today. We're excited to get some football going this weekend. And then, once everything wraps up, talk about this after the fact. But you got any parting words for the followers here? Chappie?
Ring that bell.
That's
Keep it coming. We love the comments. We love the interactions. Bengals over here, he's going to be coming at you guys if you come in the comments. I'd love to see it. I'd love to hear it. I might be in there too. We'll see. But appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep coming back and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every week. We're going to keep working on this stuff. But you guys have a good weekend out there. Enjoy the football. This is the Chappie and Bengals podcast. We'll catch you guys on the next one.